Hello, Tar Heel Nation. We are back. Another episode here. I got Gil joining me. This is the 227th, I think I saw it was, episode of the UNC Hoops Talk podcast. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for they're coming along on this ride. It's been an up and down ride, and right now the Tar Heels are riding about as high as we have all season. Last week I at least, warned about kind of getting our hopes up to have them dashed, and the Tar Heels did not do that this week. We're riding high. We're winning the games we need to win, and after wins over NC State, I would nearly call that a blowout. The score is a little bit closer than probably how the game really portrayed itself. Kind of a blowout against NC State, and then a solid win against Syracuse at home. Last night, the Tar Heels have clinched a double bye in the ACC tournament, as we talked about last week. Kind of something they needed to do. So we're riding high. We're glad to have you guys here, either watching live on YouTube or listening later on in your podcast apps. Just make sure you're subscribed wherever you're taking in the podcast. Thanks for joining on, and we of course would love any comments, questions, where we're right, where you disagree. Bring them to us either again on YouTube live here or on Twitter. You can find both of our handles in the description below of whatever podcast app you're listening this to or on. But Blake, another week, couple of wins for the Tar Heels. We're feeling. Have we felt any better at any time in this season?
I don't, because for me, when I was watching the game last night against Syracuse, an 88-79 win in overtime at the Dean Smith Center for senior night, I had this belief in the team. I had a confidence that they were going to pull it out. And I think that started for me at the away game in Louisville. That was really the first game of the season that they didn't play great, but managed to win, which was also in overtime, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And so ever since then, okay, the Pitt game was an outlier, of course. That was a terrible performance. The Duke game got shellacked. They just came in ready to play, and the Tar Heels didn't show up, early in either of those games. So it's been these slow starts, and it did actually occur last night as well, as Syracuse jumped out to a 9-0 lead. But I just felt confident that they were going to find a way to win. And that's what good teams start to do, is they find a way to win. And so I think that we're seeing the best version of what this team can be. I still don't know what their ceiling is ultimately, but nonetheless, we are, as your question was, have we felt any better about this team? I personally haven't felt any better about this team. I think all Tar Heel fans love to see players mature. We've got to witness that with Leaky Black over 4 years. We've got to witness that with Brady Manek over the course of this season. He was spectacular last night. He's been great for us all season. For me last night, Brady Manek was player of the game. When the offense stagnated, his movement without the ball always provides something, whether he drives and gets a nice pass for a dunk, or he, makes a nice drive and feeds, Baycott or someone else. So it's been fantastic. I think all of us wish we could see him play for another year. And in Carolina Blue, and we may get that opportunity with Leaky Black. We don't know at this point. So a great senior night win. I would categorize it as a big win, even though I know Syracuse is not making the NCAA tournament. I think that put them at 500. But that gives us as much confidence as we can going into the Duke game.
That's right. So I was going to follow that up with, do you think we're playing our best basketball right now? Obviously, we're winning here. Do you think this is the best we've played all season?
Yeah, I mean, to come off of that Pitt loss, there's been some debate out there around like, is this team bouncing back, when they're just beating so-so teams or whatever. But, they are bouncing back. I forget the game that was right after Pitt. That was at Virginia Tech, and yep. Virginia Tech was off a little bit with their shooting that night, but credit to UNC's defense for that, to go into Blacksburg and get a win. So that's back-to-back weekends where we've won Saturday, Monday. So we're on a 4-game win streak,
and we're winning some road games.
Yeah, that's not easy to do. We've been winning these road games, and then we've been defending our home court. And it's tough to win those games, even if they are against middle tier ACC competition. It's still good win. So we're as confident as we can be, I think, as a fan base and as the players themselves, going into what's obviously going to be one of the most challenging environments possible in Cameron for Coach K's final game, but maybe they'll feel a little bit of pressure to win that game, and the pressure's on them, and there's no pressure on us, and we can just play loose and free and get off to a hot start. That would be a pleasant change.
Yep. Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, I don't know how much I expect out of this team still. I kinda wait for, like you said, we don't really know what the ceiling is for this team. I think our talent is there. I think we're just lacking kind of fit between some guys, but as far as I do think this is the best we're playing all year. I think this is the best we fit together. I think guys are, we've had games throughout the season where Armando didn't get touches for long stretches. We've had, stretches where we just started shooting stuff where we went one on one. I think we're sharing the ball the best that we have all season. I think our defense is picking up. I think there's still work to be done on the defensive end, but I think guys are kind of getting their assignments better. We're still giving up open shots, but it's not. You remember some of those earlier games, guys were just wide open for shots, and I think we're shelling up some of that a little bit. So I do agree this is the best we're playing. Again, I'm not confident in saying that we're on par to go get a win in Duke, or we're going to make a big run in the NCAA tournament. I think there's, a lot of holes still to fill, but I do think this is, like you said, this is as much confidence as we can going into Duke, especially since that Pitt game. You're like, oh man, that's kind of low. Since then, we've done nothing but kind of build everything up, and we have the most confidence that we could since then heading into Duke. And yeah, there's nothing else you can kind of ask going forward. Is we win what we're supposed to win, and we've looked good in spots. So we are podcasting at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. If you're listening to this later, we're in the middle of the day here. But John has joined us here, and we also got Christian, who was happy to be wrong about last night. Syracuse, he really thought the Orange were going to win last night, and I don't know if I was as confident as you, where you just felt like we were going to win that game. But I do think I wasn't as down last night when they were hitting everything early, especially Swider. Just could not miss. I think that what they hit, like first 5 shots at least, it may have been more than that to start the game, but they were just hitting everything. And we were down, I don't know what it was, 9-2, very quickly. I don't think I was as nervous or kind of negative, or whatever word you want to use, last night as I had been in the past. So I guess that is a movement on my part as well. Maybe I'm still the negative Nancy, but not quite as negative as I had felt in other games. Other games we got down, and obviously the competition was different, but we got down early or quickly, and it was kind of like this game's over. Whereas that one, I didn't feel that way. As hot as they were, we kind of kept fighting through it, and kept it close enough, and you just felt like they wouldn't be able to keep hitting those shots as well. And I think it was partly our play. We were still going inside. We were taking the shots that we needed to, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I was nervous. Our season was hanging in the balance. We could ill afford a home loss to another middle to lower tier ACC team. We had to defend our home court and get that win, which sealed at least a top 4 finish in the ACC regular season and a bye in the first round of the ACC tournament. So it was a huge win with that significance on it. But there was something about their ability to execute. And I want to give credit to the coaching staff as well. We talk about how the players and because of the limited rotation, these players have now had, a full season at this point to work together. And so I think that they have worked out a lot of those kinks. Their offense is clicking a lot better. There's much more efficiency. There's understanding about who's going to be there, but the coaching staff as well. I mean, they've got to figure out their roles. You got a lot of people that haven't been on the sideline, like Sean May. He's been in a different role. And he's been working with Baycott and getting Baycott to really utilize his strengths more, that kind of thing. And I want to give credit to Coach Hubert Davis too. I think there's been a lot of, people on social media and that kind of thing criticizing him. He's, first year head coach, as we know, but I think he's gotten it right at this point. 22-8 in his first year, sitting, third in the ACC. I think we should give him credit. That's spectacular. I think that's great for a first-year head coach. And anyone out there, I just want to, this is like my PSA for the podcast. Anyone out there that's like said fire Hubert on social media, you should be embarrassed of yourself. First-year head coach, finishing in the top 3 of the ACC. Get out of here. Let's give the guy an opportunity. And so far for me, I think he's done what he needs to do. Have there been mistakes along the way? Yes, he's been learning. The players are learning. It's not perfect, and I'm not necessarily expecting us to cut down the nets at the end of the season, but building on this, I think this has been a successful season so far. Now, there's still room here at the end of the season for things to teeter either way a little bit. You know what I mean? So I still want us to finish strong, of course. He could certainly cap that with a huge win on Saturday. Would be, some serious icing on the cake. I think all of us would take that win over. Well, we wouldn't take it over a national championship, of course not. But foreshadowing that this team might only make it to the second weekend, I think we'd all take the win at Cameron Indoor, even over maybe, another win going into the NCAA tournament or something like that.
Yeah, there's probably some people that would take it over the national championship, but we should never lose that perspective. National championships are more important than beating Duke. But yeah, to that point, I would definitely take it over. Like, had the choice of winning at home or on the road, I would rather win this one. K's last game, his last game in Cameron, all that stuff that's going to be going on, and part of me thinks that's maybe the chance that we have is there's so much emotion and circus around his last regular season game, his last game in Cameron, and all that stuff. That maybe the guys are kind of like you said, so pumped up or so kind of emotional about it that maybe we can sneak in and get a big lead and hold it off and win the game or something. But apparently, John thinks for this team the ceiling is the roof, as Michael Jordan said. So again, I would definitely cheer for that. Yeah, I was never to the point of firing Coach Davis. I never said that. I don't think I wouldn't agree with anybody that did say it. But and like you said, there's still kind of room to grow and room to make adjustments and stuff like that. I think one question is still the rotation of guys. We've kind of had plenty of talk about that on this podcast. So I don't think we have to get back into that. But maybe before
you
we
kind of give him a couple seasons. Sorry to cut you off. You got to give him a couple seasons to get his players in too. I mean,
Yep.
Let's be honest. This to see what he was dealt, and these guys have talent, but to try and put it together, earlier in the middle of the season on this podcast, we talked about the makeup of this roster, so he was somewhat, handed this and he had to deal with it. And, I think he's for the most part gotten them to where they need to be at this point. Like I said, they're maybe the best version of what they are at this point. So, I think kudos to him for that, so that's, the coach talk there.
So before we kind of move on to kind of really looking at Duke, I think we do need to kind of shout people out in the last couple of games and the performances they've had. Going back to NC State, it was I feel like a comfortable win. I know the final score was just a 10-point difference, but for a lot of that game, it was 20 plus. And Armando ended up with 28 and 18. It would have been awesome to see him to get 30 and 20, but still a solid game there. Caleb Love just 1 for 7 shooting from 3, but ended up with 16 points. Brady Manick 16 points as well. He shot 2 for 5 from 3. And then kind of the other uplifting thing or positive, we saw that after Leaky Black went down with a knee injury, which turned out not to be serious, but we didn't know at that time. Puff Johnson came in, gave us a great game. I wouldn't even say just a solid game. He was great in that game, 16 points. I mean, for the first game that he got major minutes, he played 29 in this game, 16 points, 2 for 4 from the 3-point line, 6 for 7 from the free throw line, 5 rebounds. I think, we have to kind of give him his praise in that game. And then last night as well, Caleb Love wasn't great most of the game and then was kind of spectacular late and in overtime, ended up with 21 points, 4 for 12 from the 3-point line, 6 rebounds to go along with his 3 assists, 0 turnovers. Brady Manick led us actually with 22 points, 3 for 6 from the 3-point line, 5 rebounds. And Armando gets mentioned third here, and he had 17 points and 18 rebounds. So, and then RJ Davis as well. I would say kind of the same as Caleb, was kind of suspect or not solid for a lot of the game, but still ended up with 17 points, shot 5 for 11 from the 3-point line. So again, kind of going right back to us speaking about playing the best basketball of the season for this team. Everybody kind of said letting Hubert get into being used to being a coach, but I think the guys are getting used to um, what is expected of them from Coach Davis, and kind of hitting their groove at the right time here. I mean, we may not expect the ceiling to be too high here, but I mean, right now is the best time to be playing the best basketball of the season, so we can't complain about that.
That's true. I know what I was going to say at the end of that talk about Coach Davis, and he made an excellent adjustment late in the game last night with Carolina down one. Syracuse had the ball with 15 seconds left, only 4 seconds left on the shot clock, and he switched. He brought in Puff Johnson, and that added some more length. Put him on Swider, who had been lights out for much of the night until he had switched Leaky Black over to him with about 4 minutes left in the game. He switched Black back onto Boeheim, Buddy Boeheim, and they forced a turnover, a crucial turnover that gave them an opportunity. And let's talk about that final possession. Carolina calls a timeout. And I almost texted you this. You texted around the middle of the game, or maybe at halftime. Caleb Love was only 2 of 13 or something at that point. Hadn't shot well, hadn't played well until, maybe 2 minutes left in the game. And I almost texted you back, yeah, until he hits the biggest shot of the game. And sure enough, it was one of those no, yes shots. He's from way outside, but he was open. According to what I heard, Coach Davis said, let's take the first open look, good shot that we have rather than getting too late, too close to the end of regulation. And man, what a huge shot. I saw a video on social media today of like someone inside the Dean Dome. There was like this gasp when the shot went up, but then it goes in, and of course the roar. But yeah, what a performance by Caleb Love. I think when it comes down to it, at the end of the game, that's who we trust. And again, as you mentioned, Armando's performance, his performances throughout the season, he did have a little lull there when I think he had injured his hand. That was probably more significant than a lot of us even knew. I think that kind of dipped his performances a bit, but man, he has been steady, and he's put himself in the conversation for ACC Player of the Year. And for me, of course, I am biased. He's my ACC Player of the Year. Some of that might have been predetermined by people who think there's another better NBA prospect out there on another team, but I think Alondas Williams for Wake leading the conference in scoring and assists. He's the other name in the conversation for me, but Armando leads the conference in rebounds, field goal percentage, and I think maybe one other stat, and all while getting a ton of minutes. And then, of course, I want to mention Leaky Black on his senior night. 8 points, I believe, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, a couple key steals and blocks. I mean, he just did everything that we have always wanted Leaky to do, all those intangibles, plus a lot of that doesn't fall onto the stat sheet with his defense. So, yeah, all the teams, all the guys on the team, and yes, Puff, coming in as our sixth man. He's really filling a role that this team needed. He comes in and plays hard defense. He defends not only with energy, but with grit, and he rebounds well. He attacks the offensive glass really, really well. And so I think he brings a lot of energy when he comes in. I would love to see Styles. I say that pretty much every podcast. I'd love to see him getting minutes in every game, of course. But I think that the rotation is what it is, and it's good that at least we feel confident, and Coach Davis feels confident in Puff Johnson. So all the guys in the last couple of games have performed, about as well as they can.
Yeah, so Caleb's late game or late shot made me kind of think, like, if we need that one shot, who do we trust or who do we want to be taking it? And obviously it depends kind of who you're playing. It's hard to kind of get a big guy a last shot. He can't create it on his own. He's got to get a post up, and then you got to get the feed, and you want it to be at the right time with the clock so you don't leave too much. But then whether you need an offensive rebound or whatever. So if the game's on the line, I think last night we were down 1 when Caleb hit that 3. So it's not like he was even we go to overtime if he misses or anything like that. Who on our team would you want taking that last shot or having the ball in their hands?
It's crazy. I might not trust him throughout the rest of the game. He might go 1 of 7 or 8 for the rest of the game, but I think in those big moments, Caleb Love has something, that special something that you can't even really put your finger on to, the mojo to make a big shot. And so I think he's the guy. I mean, he proved it last night. Everybody made big shots. I mean, I trust Brady too. I think back to the end of that Clemson game, we were down, I think 2 or maybe 3, and Caleb Love hit a huge 3 to get us back in that one. We got a turnover or defensive stop. And then, we had possession again, and Caleb made a great drive and ended up feeding Manic for that layup. So those are the two guys for me. Whether Caleb ends up taking the shot or creating for someone else, I think you need the ball in his hands.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is it doesn't have to be the shot now, especially if he shows that he's gonna give it up like in the Clemson game where he gave it up to Brady for the dunk. But yeah, he can create, and obviously, I think percentage wise, RJ's probably shooting better. Brady's shooting better. I think from three, better percentage than Caleb Love. But just the size that Caleb has, he can create. And now I would say he didn't create a shot last night. The ball, against the zone, they swung the ball around and then it was skipped over to him for the three. So it's not like he created that on his own, but he did still knock it down. And then, like you said, he has shown that he can create. And as long as he's willing to dish it off, he doesn't have to take the shot. That's kind of where the ball's got to go. RJ again shoots maybe a better percentage, but it's a little bit tougher for him to create space and to get his shot off if he's going to go on his own. And then Brady's not quite the dribbler that you'd want having the ball late in the game. Again, if he's spotting up or if he's crashing the board, he's open or something like that. Definitely trust him to shoot if he's got an open look. But as far as creating, I think Caleb's got to have the ball in his hands late in game, which, yeah, like you said, is kind of crazy when you look at the first part of that game, or you look at some of the games this season where I wouldn't even say other people. At least I'll speak for myself, have been pretty critical of decision making and all that stuff that he's done. To me, it's even crazy to think I want the ball in his hands at the end of the year. So that it just stood out to me as he hit that shot. And it's like, if we have a last second shot, it's probably Caleb that's got the ball in his hands. So just crazy there. But as we move on to previewing Duke here, Christian says he'll be the biggest Boston College fan if they lose. Sorry, I'm trying to read this as I'm talking about it, but he'll be the biggest Boston College fan tomorrow if BC loses. Then he'll be the biggest Syracuse fan Saturday, so that UNC could get the 3 seed. 4 seed is still a little scary. I think the only difference there is we play the 2 seed then, right? If we win our first game, we move on to play the 2 seed if we're the 3, as opposed to moving up to the 1 seed if we are the 4 seed. But to me, I think if I said this last week, if we play Duke tough, and if we can win that first game and get back to playing Duke in the semifinals of the ACC tournament, I think we're in the tournament or in the NCAA tournament at that point. And to me, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, we'd like to beat Duke one of those times, but yeah, a lot of scenarios can still go on there.
I said on Twitter earlier that I think with the win last night, we're in. Now, I know conversation is still out there that we need to win at least, we need to play Duke tough and we need to win, our first.
Well, I would say it probably depends who we play in the ACC tournament and how that goes.
To me, it's just crazy that we are potentially the number 3, seed in the ACC, and we're 22-8. We have the same record or even a better record than a team like Texas, which is in the top 25 and currently sitting at like either a 4 seed or a 6 seed line or something. I'm just like, I know the ACC's down. I know UNC is only 1-7 in Q1 games, but it's hard for me to wrap my mind around that we're 22-8 sitting at 3rd in the conference and we're not in safely. I think we're in personally.
Well,
we've done enough, but I understand that we shouldn't just rest on our laurels either, or rest on our reputation. And we should, hopefully we beat Duke. Obviously, right. That's what we want, of course. Right. But and hopefully we, do go as far into the ACC tournament as this team can go. It's going to be tough because of the legs of the team since the rotation is so tight. But yeah, obviously we want to get at least one more win. We'll feel a little bit safer.
Right. Well, and whether you agree or not, it kind of comes down to that quad 1, wins and losses. We're 1-7 in quad 1, and obviously it would have helped if Michigan would have done better and that would have stayed a quad 1 and all that stuff. Yeah, agree or disagree. That's it comes down to kind of that, who we've beaten and who we've, the way we've lost, I think too has affected it. But so John says if we do beat Duke here, ESPN is going to declare bankruptcy. Oh, he says after K's retirement. He doesn't say if we beat him, but Disney is going to sell ESPN if K can't win his last game there. So maybe a little conspiracy there, huh?
I definitely don't know what ESPN is going to do during UNC broadcasts when K's not there. I mean,
they'll still talk about
broadcast of UNC is filled with Coach K stuff all the time.
They'll hire him to call the UNC games. And Christian says the fact that Hubert got this UNC team to the double bye is pretty impressive, giving him his props. And Charles as well, giving Coach Davis some props here. He's doing a good job. Wait till he gets Gigi Jackson in to see the real UNC. We'll have the #1 class. We'll get into that stuff into the off season as we look at recruiting a little bit. But Charles says we might win the ACC tournament, or if we win the ACC tournament, it wouldn't surprise me if we can beat anyone. If we just play defense, I think is what it's supposed to say there. So again, I don't know if I don't have the.
You need me to read those, Dan?
You probably would do a better job there. Trying to do too many things here at once, but I don't foresee us there. Before we even get to the ACC tournament, we'll podcast about that later as it gets set up here. But heading into Duke here, we've obviously talked about it or hinted at it plenty here already. I wouldn't say either of us. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we expect us to win. Where are you saying in confidence level you are going into this game? I know we really went through. We're playing the best basketball of the season for us. We've kind of figured stuff out, but we still haven't beat. We beat one quad one team. It was Virginia Tech on the road. We haven't beat anybody that would be in the tournament. I don't think. We kind of went through it last week. I don't think it's changed.
Yeah, this is a tough one, and I'm almost copping out in a way by saying I'm confident that we're going to be more competitive than we were in the first matchup with them. I know that's a cop out, but this is a tough Duke team. They are a talented team. Do I think that they're more talented than, like pound for pound? I think that, we do have a lot of talent, but the matchups are a bit tough, as Coach Davis said after the first matchup. Okay, he can defensively match up Leaky Black against, either Banchero or
AJ Griffin.
Yeah, thank you. He's been solid for them, yeah. Griffin, and so it's tough matchups for us defensively. Now, if maybe they're just say like when we play Virginia Tech and their just shot was a little bit off, that could help us out quite a bit. Of course, I expect a close game. Duke might pull out late, but I'm much more confident than the way that I have been earlier in the season when this team just got punched and didn't fight back. You know what I mean? This team is now showing that they have heart, that they have fight. And so I expect them to keep it competitive to the end. And that if they stay in it, then they have a shot to win it.
Yeah, I think before the last Duke game, I think I actually said I liked the matchups of us against Duke. But then, of course, the last game, I think that was kind of AJ Griffin's breaking out game where he just, was hitting everything. And so with him, and he's played that way since that game as well. He's had some solid games where he's just kind of gone off and saved Duke in some games and stuff. So if he's going to play like that, then yeah, the matchups definitely change because as Coach Davis has said several times now, even in the last few games, where there's only one Leaky Black out there on defense. And we would be a lot better if we had two Leaky Blacks on defense.
But he has given Puff more minutes, and Puff has, got the length and athleticism to maybe, contest some of that. So we'll see.
I mean,
I think the guy who commented earlier about, this team plays hard defense, that really helps our chances of beating anybody. So if they show up engaged and are playing really hard defense, making it tough on Duke, then maybe Duke, like I said, they tighten up a little bit when they're not seeing the ball go through the hoop quite as much. So that's going to be key.
Yeah, and I think we need kind of everybody's. We've said it. We're playing better. We're getting more guys. Earlier in the season, we had said we'd have one or two guys kind of go off each game, and we don't have games where a lot of people are going off or everybody's kind of in sync. I think last night was a little bit more, especially in overtime. I think we got more of that. We just went through the stats. Armando had 15 and 18. Brady Les with 22. Caleb Bembo with 21. RJ had 17. The game before that, Puff had 16. Leaky's been hitting his corner threes at least. He's been solid from 3-point line. But we kind of need that. We need everybody's A game. We need Caleb to play against Duke like he did last year. We need Armando to just get every rebound and to just kind of do what he's been doing all season, or at least in the ACC season.
Yeah, not let Williams affect everybody's shot inside.
Yeah,
keep a high field goal percentage when we do have it in the paint. That's going to be key. We can't afford missed layups like this team was prone to earlier in the season.
Right. Yeah, we can't be intimidated. So we need to play our A game on offense, and then kind of like what you were saying defensively, we have to make them uncomfortable, or we have to make them miss shots, or I guess if you just want some luck and they just miss open shots, we'll take it. But we're gonna need it at both. I think if we're on our A game on offense, we could still lose to Duke if our defense isn't solid or even spectacular. And obviously, if we have really good defense and we can't score, we're gonna have troubles too. But I think it's got to be both, and that seems kind of obvious. Like, oh, to beat a really good team, you need to play good on both sides of the floor. But we've kind of seen hints of it. But I think we still need that complete game if we're gonna beat Duke. Unless like I said earlier, they're just completely emotionally spent because of all the K talk, and they're just so worried about winning that they're just completely off, and we somehow steal it. But if we want to actually beat Duke, we're gonna have to play kind of out of our minds almost, in my opinion.
One of the keys to us getting our offensive rhythm and being efficient offensively is ball movement. When this team moves the ball around, swing the ball, back and forth, moving the defense around, then they're able to get much better looks. And shot selection is so key. And we've seen a couple players on this team with sometimes poor shot selection, and that obviously has affected the field goal percentage. When we move the ball around and when Carolina is effective offensively, it's often when they have a good assist ratio. The majority of their baskets are assisted on, not just dribble, 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 throw up, a 3-pointer. So that's going to be so key,
And it
is
looks
keeping the ball movement. Yeah.
and it looks so much more like Carolina basketball when we do it. I mean, we've
Yes.
had moments of that, and it's like, where has it been? But yeah, it obviously helps as well. I mean, that's why Coach Smith and everybody since has kind of preached that as well. It's been kind of the Carolina way. So Charles Diggs here is calling it. We are going to beat Duke Saturday. We got nothing to lose. Go into the game loosely goosey and mad.
I bet Caleb does want redemption. He played 2 spectacular games against them last year, and sadly a game to forget earlier this season. I bet he does come out with a chip on his shoulder, fired up. I'd love to see it.
So Charles says Puff is going to be the key on Saturday. Again, we go back to this kind of every time, but do you think we can only play 6 guys on Saturday to, in that kind of environment and stuff? I feel like we're going to need, not that they even have to give us big stats or anything, but we're going to need more guys to step in and give us minutes here and there. And I don't think we can count on, Armando and well, everybody really playing nearly the entire game here with Puff being our only sub.
We're going to have to steal a few minutes here and there, put Styles in for 2 minutes, get those 2 minutes out of him, 3 minutes out of him in the first half. Puff Johnson, a minimum of 12 to 14 minutes. That's going to be crucial. It's unfortunate that we don't have an interior substitute, basically, with the loss of Dawson Garcia. Right. There's just, Hubert's limited with what he can do, spelling, Armando or Brady for a couple minutes, and Duke has, a lot of height and a lot of athleticism. So what do you do? It puts them in a tough spot. So the guys are going to have to play big minutes. They're used to that. If there's one good thing about playing Saturday, Monday, is that these guys get to rest up until Saturday. Comment there from John B is drive the basketball and earn free throws. Thankfully, this Carolina team is a good free throw shooting team that really helps in those late game situations. We were able to pull out a lot of wins, including, when you go into overtime, that means every point counted. So we made big free throws down the stretch last night, and so that's huge. And so we'll hopefully get to the line. That's going to be key, is staying aggressive. Which when you're going into Cameron, you're on the road. Sometimes maybe you're more prone to settle, but the guys need to stay aggressive. And if they can stay almost even in terms of the number of free throws that they shoot with Duke, I think that's a good sign.
I was saying foul trouble could be a big issue either way. If we can get, Mark Williams into foul trouble, or Banchero or AJ Griffin, kind of their big 3 for us, that could help us a tremendous amount. And obviously if we get into foul trouble, it's going to affect, rotations and how that affects our game as well in a big way. But John,
absolutely. And Armando Bacot had 0 fouls last night. Can you believe that? We've seen a lack of discipline out of him throughout his career to some extent, but to play a hard fought game that goes into overtime and no fouls, wow, kudos to him for that.
For sure. And John adds that up, that the drives will open up the threes. And I think that's where we've gotten in trouble is we, like you said, we dribble and settle for a 3 as opposed to driving and kicking out for a three or offensive rebound into a three. So that will make a big difference. So here we'll kind of make our way out of here. Christian asks, do you think the game really starts at 6 p.m. Eastern, or is it drawn out with the overly grand presentation by stroking Coach K's ego as we head into? I do not know. I haven't looked kind of at the schedule of what leads up to the game. Well, I guess it's a Saturday, so there's probably games before that on ESPN. We'll probably start at noon Eastern and go all the way through our games into the evening. So for that reason, I would say it's not going to start at 6 p.m. Eastern. It would be interesting to see what ESPN kind of has planned as far as celebrating Coach K and what they have planned as far as video. I would think there's not a lot of room. I would think most stuff that is going to be done for Coach K's final game will be done in the stadium or in Cameron Indoor and won't be shown on TV, minus obviously the game day guys. Jay Billis, I'm sure, is on that call since game day is in Durham or at Duke that game. So I don't think ESPN will be able to really show much outside of kind of them just talking about it to stroke Coach K's ego. But I'm going to say it doesn't start right on time, but not necessarily because of what ESPN is showing and doing. I think they'll be more limited because of other games and stuff like that.
Has there been a single game all season that started on time, or have we gotten the coverage? There's always a game before it that is running over. Yeah, I don't know how much they're going to show. They'll probably show clips of it that they splice into the coverage of what did happen prior to the game. And of course, they're going to go around and show every single celebrity and talk about the cost of the tickets, which they harped on big time last night, and show all the plethora of the Duke players that are there. I think there's going to be many in attendance. So there's going to be plenty of pomp and circumstance. How much of that we'll see on the coverage, I think it'll be kind of filtered in.
Timeouts and after commercials and stuff like that. But so John B says wait till halftime. But again, that's more stuff that's going to take place at the stadium and not necessarily affect our viewing purposes. Now it is Saturday. I know, for football it's a little bit easier and they get kind of like the multiple channel. You watch it from different views or people different talking about it. I haven't looked. I don't know if there's anything like that. It would be interesting if there's anybody else, like any other view you can watch. Maybe like ESPNU is going to be Coach K cam, and you just watch Coach K the whole game instead of the actual basketball. I don't know, but it's not as with so many games going on. I figure they probably don't have as much room to do that. But it'll be interesting to see what ESPN does. And again, there's probably a game after ours. Usually Duke, North Carolina is kind of the late game, starting at 8, ending at 10, I feel like. And so then afterwards they lead into Sports Center, and it if they did that, it would all be Coach K.
I think they're promoting an NBA game after, but I could be mistaken. Okay. Man, just starting to talk about this is starting to get my heart going. I'm starting to feel it. I'm like, oh my God, I really, really want to win this game. So I'm starting to shift my energy from the excitement of winning last night's game to, now we got Duke in this final game, Coach K and Cameron. Oh yeah, I'm starting to feel the energy of it. So I hope everyone out there is getting fired up. And if you're able to go to the game, cheer as loud as possible.
If you got an extra 20K laying around, right?
Totally.
So I believe this is a joke again. John says ESPN's going off air after the game. But now that we talk through it, I do remember
I'd be fine with that, by the way.
Seeing the lineup is, I think a lot of it moves over to ACC Network. I think they're saying there's going to be what is this? I've never even watched it, but Nothing by Net or something. Isn't that what Joel Berry's on? Nothing but Net. I feel like that's on they're on site at Cameron, but there's like a pregame one of those on ACC Network, and then after the game there's a postgame one of those.
Yeah, if Duke wins, I like watching that stuff. It would be.
But at least we can get away from it. Then we just don't turn to ACC Network. I feel like in the past it just follows the game so much that you kind of consume it whether you want to or not. So hopefully we can stay away from that stuff. Blake just texted. He was in a meeting, which is why he's not here since we did this in the middle of the day. But he just got done with his meeting, and he said that he hopes we had a good podcast, and that he's leading the Leaky Black comeback movement in full swing. So If you see it on Twitter, hashtag leaky. I'll get it right here. Leaky Black Comeback Movement. That's from Blake leading that. So we'll talk about that roster stuff as we head into the off season and all that. But I think we kind of got it covered here. You got anything left about Duke?
And beat Duke, play hard defense, rebound the ball, keep them off the offensive glass. That's always killer when they get offensive rebounds and then get a kick out three. We got to limit that. And, hopefully we're going to see the best version of Caleb Love showing up in this one.
And then, John says Leaky Black 6th-year senior. He'll break all the records for games played as a Tar Heel and stuff. But I think that's all we got. Since we do have the double bye in the ACC tournament, we should hopefully be able to do kind of a tournament preview early next week. Looking ahead to that, I know last year is kind of when we started doing post-game podcasts after all those tournaments. We'll have to see what we can do. I don't know what my schedule looks like for next week, if we'll be able to do that. But hopefully we'll be able to kind of pump out more of this content as we get into it. Is title of this podcast. We didn't even mention it is March. We're in March Madness here. So again, kind of what you said, we're getting pumped for the Duke game. We got to get pumped for March Madness as well. I know we maybe haven't been as psyched because we don't feel like this team's going to go as far, but it is that time of year. It is time to get excited and pumped up just for it being March and March Madness, the tournament, and all that good stuff that comes with it. So it's definitely something that we need to kind of get into. I know it's March 1st, but we got to get into that. So we'll end here. Christian says, before we go, have you all been watching the tournament documentary on ACC Network? It is so good. I have seen the first 4 episodes, and we're getting into the really good stuff. Phil Ford just won the ACC tournament for the Tar Heels his freshman year is kind of where I've watched to in that. And I know
I saw that one. I haven't seen any of the rest, but I am interested in it. I just haven't been, between the Carolina games happening. I've just been focusing on that. So I'm interested in it. It does sound like it's good. And I did watch the Phil Ford. That was really cool to see. So
so I'm getting to the good stuff. I know I'm a few behind, but John says
are they re-airing on?
Yeah, because they're new there's 2 new ones every Monday, which I think next Monday will probably be the last 2. I think there's supposed to be 10 of them, and we're through 8. But I usually go back and once, like on Monday, after they show the new ones, they play the old ones leading up to it and all that stuff. So yeah, they're re-airing on ACC Network. But John says no more midday podcasts. We're going to get him fired. So with that being said, we're going to head out of here. Gil, thanks for joining. Blake, thanks for the tweet or the text, I guess, to get included into the podcast. But we are in Beat Duke week, heading into March Madness and the ACC tournament, NCAA tournament, all that good stuff. So it's time to get fired up. It's time to unite Tar Heel Nation. Again, thanks for watching or listening. Make sure you subscribe, to make sure you share it with a friend or family member who's also a Tar Heel fan. And we will sign out from there. Until next week, go Heels.